Hey guys, it's Hermie. Today I'm gonna show you how I've made the bracer for my Kindred cosplay I'm currently working on. So without further ado, let's get started. First of all, you need a pattern to work with. It's important to have one of these in order to make sure the size of your bracer fits perfectly. There's a very simple technique which is very common for cosplays. To create a pattern you need tape, plastic wrap, permanent marker and a pair of scissors. You start with wrapping your arm or the part of your body you want to have a pattern of in plastic wrap. You can buy this at almost every supermarket. It's very easy, just make sure that you don't pull it too tight, otherwise the final pattern won't fit your body shape. After you've wrapped your arm in plastic wrap, it's time to use the tape and wrap it around too. Also, make sure that you don't pull it too tight. Using smaller pieces of tape can help preventing that from happening. When you're finished with all the wrapping, you can start with drawing on the desired shape of your pattern. You can keep it very simple or go wild and crazy with it and draw on details. Just make sure you draw a line for the opening cut. After you've finished all that, it's time to cut out the pattern. Just make sure you follow the line you drew. When you have your pattern out of tape, straighten it as good as you can. This can be a bit difficult with very round shapes. After that, you can begin to trace your pattern onto your fabric, foam or whatever material you want to use. I went for felt because I wanted it a bit more stable than fabric but not as unflexible as EVA foam. Then just cut it out. I needed it twice because I wanted a bracer for both of my hands. Just make sure that the second pattern is mirrored so that it will fit your second hand. Since Kindred has a lot of fur on it, it is now time to cut out fur in the shape of the pattern. I went for a bright white fake fur with a hair length of approximately 3 centimeters. It was a bit too long though, so I heated it up with a hairdryer so that it started to wrinkle. It made it look much more sheepy. You can either cut out the fur as a single part, which I would recommend, or cut it out in 2 pieces for every bracer. That's like I did it, since I did not have that much of fur. That's no problem, just make sure that you cover up the space in between the 2 parts with a thin stripe of fur. When it comes to attaching the fur to the felt, there happened to be a little problem. Since I didn't want to sew it on, I went for a special fabric glue. Unfortunately, it didn't work at all. It kept falling off all the time. Hot glue was super easy to use and worked out totally fine in the end. Now see, that's the point where the basic bracer is already done. From now on, it's all about details and refining. Since Kindred is kind of a slender character but also has a very defined elegant body shape, I didn't want my bracer to be totally flat. So I cut out a strip of felt and wrapped it around the bottom part of the bracer to make it slimmer. Next step was the coloring of the fur. Kindred's color scheme has a lot of bluish tones in it, and I decided to go for the color scheme of the splash art since I don't really like the turquoise colors on the in-game model, but that's totally up to you. At the beginning I had a lot of troubles to find the right color because I wanted it to fit the colors of my bow. I really recommend to try out your colors on a piece of testing fur before you use it on the actual bracer. I couldn't find the right color in my collection of fabric dyes, so I decided to use the acrylics which I used for the bow. In order to dye the fur, you have to dissolve the acrylic paint in a lot of water, so that it's basically just blue dyed water. For coloring, you want to use as less dyed water as you can, but as much as you need. It sounds a bit complicated, but it isn't. If you are unsure, just try it out on a test stripe of fur. A blow dryer helps you to speeden up the process a lot. He's your best friend there. When it comes to attaching, I decided to close my bracer with a velcro tape. It's easy to use and very cheap. I glued on 3 stripes of it with hot glue and it worked perfectly. As you can see, I added a small rubber band at the top of the bracer's inside. If you slide your ring and middle finger through it, it helps you moving the bracer with your movement. Weathering is my absolute favorite part while crafting. I didn't want my bracer to be clean since Kindred is a hunter, so why should its bracer be clean? I used acrylics and pastel chalks and just messed around with them until I was happy with the result, which you can see on the right. The final step was to create some kind of jewelry that I would Kindred expect to wear. I decided to go with the crescent-like shape which you can find on Kindred's mask too. I cut it out of rubber foam and added a wooden texture with my smoldering iron, and it worked out so well. After that, I sealed it with some glue and painted it afterwards. As a last step, I added a wristband to attach it to the bracer with some pearls and minor details on it. Everything together led to this bracer. I'm so in love with it, and I was so happy how it all worked together. I'm really happy. Hopefully this tutorial / making of video was helpful and interesting for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. In case you want to keep track with my process on Kindred, check out my Instagram, HermieArts. With that being said, see you next time!